Hi guys, my name's Jon Watts from the TruGolf Academy and you've joined me at Drayton Park Golf Club. I'm actually out on the 9th green or just around the side of the 9th green, and today we're going to be talking about chipping. I'm going to do this video in two parts. The second part is going to be focusing more on club selection. What I try and work out is the air percentage to the roll percentage, so how much time that ball's going to spend in the air, how much time it's going to spend along the ground. And I've got a bit of a formula, a simple bit of maths for you to work out what club to take from where. We're going to move on to that, as I said, in part two. Part one today, we're going to be talking really about the setup position. So I've got a couple of alignment aids here just to make it a little easier for you to see. The first one here, the green stick, is going to give you an idea of my target direction, and the one in between my feet is going to be pointing at the golf ball, the orange line here, and that is just going to show you and hopefully demonstrate my ball position, because that's the first point I want to touch on. Now, most of you will be aware, for a chip and run, for a low bump and run shot, that we want to move that ball back in our stance. The reason behind it is to try and actually make sure that our sternum is ahead of the ball. And that's a big problem I find, is golfers move that ball back, but also move their sternum back, whether they're doing that at a setup or whether they're doing that in the swing at some points. And that tends to cause missed strikes, a varying trajectory and varying distance we're actually going to get with the shot. So we are going to move that ball back towards my trail foot. So for me as a right-handed golfer, my right foot, I'm going to play it just inside my right heel. And what we're going to make sure is that your sternum stays ahead of the ball by a couple of inches. What that will do is apply a little bit more pressure onto your front foot. So that's point two. I have moved the ball back, but by keeping my sternum ahead of the ball, I've actually got more pressure onto my lead left leg. And as I'm setting up into this, we want to maintain that through the shot as well. Now, in terms of ball position, there's one last thing I just want to mention that I see quite often happening, is I get a lot of golfers who set up with a very open stance. Now, the reason some coaches teach it that way and some instructional books talk about an open stance on short game is to try and get this left hip, this lead hip, out of the way to allow your hands room to continue towards the target. Now that's absolutely fine, but what I get a lot of golfers doing, because they go straight into an open stance, they think the ball's back because they're looking in relation to their feet alignment or their body alignment, but actually in relation to the target, you can see there that the ball is actually way up near my left heel. So if you do want to open your stance, what I would encourage you to do is open your feet to get the right ball position first, then withdraw that front foot to get your hips a little bit open. Okay, I think you only need to do that if you find this left side is in the way. So maybe go ahead and hit a few shots with your stance pretty square to start with and just see if that causes a problem. But if it does, make sure you open your feet first, move it back second. Then you can get that ball position correct. The next point I want to talk about is the actual height that we're going to have the golf club. So I'm a firm believer in trying to use as much as possible natural forces. So we want to be using gravity that wants to pull this club down, centrifugal force that wants to actually get this club to continue swinging past the ball. What we don't want to use is a lot of rotation. Now there will be minimal rotation because it is a golf shot. We are swinging around our body, but the shorter the swing, the less rotation we're going to have. So what I try and do, and I'm just going to grab my putter, is we try and move whatever club we've got in our hands more up to an angle of a putter. So a putter is at around 70 degrees. We're trying to move our irons, which are closer to 60 degrees. It depends on which one we're using. But we're trying to move that up by around 10 degrees so it is more like a putter. That will mean I'm going to stand in a little bit closer to the ball as well. And then again, we're going to end up using more natural forces as much as possible. Now, the other thing that does, by moving the club more up in the air, is we're actually going to end up with the club running much higher up in my palms. We want it to be more like a putting grip, so it is up near your lifelines. Okay, so we're actually, by moving that club more upright, the club is going to be higher up, more through my lifelines, much more in the pad of my hand. That ends up restricting wrist action, which is a very good thing when we're trying to hit this chip shot. Okay, so we are going to move the club more upright. That is going to mean it's set much higher in my hands. That's another good point that we want to do. The last thing I just want to talk about with the setup position is where we actually grip on the golf club. So what I want you to do is I want you to find where you want to grip it with your favorite wedge that you would normally use round the green. Okay, so I've got a 58-degree club here, and I'm going to find where feels comfortable to me, which is probably gripping around ½ an inch down the handle. What I want you to try and do is recreate that with whichever club that you're using. So I've got a 9-iron and a 7-iron here. So once I've found my location that I want to grip it with my wedge, if I just put the two clubs together and simply do a line across towards the top of my left hand, I'm actually going to be gripping down the 9-iron by a good inch. Okay, inch, maybe an inch and a half. So I'm lower down the handle with a 9-iron. I'm going to be even lower down the handle with a 7-iron. So again, if I do the same thing, I'm going to be a good couple of inches down the handle with a 7-iron, meaning my right thumb, my right index finger is almost on the top of the shaft. That means I'm getting a consistent length. What is changing is the loft on the club. I'm just going to go ahead and hit one or two quick shots for you to finish up with. So I've got my 9-iron here. The ball is nearer my back foot. My sternum is ahead. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a pretty square stance. My sternum is ahead. My handle of the club is more upright. I'm gripping the club a little lower down the handle and much more up in my palms near my lifelines. I've got that pressure on my front foot, and what I want to be able to do is finish the shot and still have that pressure on my left foot. Okay, we don't want to ever finish in a position where my sternum has moved backwards. The club would finish very high. We're going to get inconsistent trajectory, inconsistent distance. So one last shot, move the club more upright, move it forwards, pressures on my front foot, and I'm going to go ahead and finish that shot, and my pressure is still on my left leg. I hope that part of the video's helped. Look out for part 2. If you did find the content interesting and useful, please give us a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to the channel. It is for free. As I said, look out for part 2. That's going to really help with club selection. Thank you.